So with that, as I said, we'll introduce Emily Grandstaff-Rice. Emily, would you like to take the floor? I will ask you a question now regarding balancing priorities. AIA has made a significant commitment to proactive advocacy and environmental stewardship. However, recent events have also led the AIA Board to make an equal commitment to social justice issues. How can AIA most effectively balance these major initiatives at the national level? And what support can AIA provide to components to ensure a coordinated approach? Emily?
Thank you so much, Brett. Thank you, AIA California, for hosting us today. I love this question because it gets at the heart of leadership in a complex world. When you have to make decisions that are nuanced, it's a yes and type of proposition rather than a yes or. So first, let's talk about the 2019 AIA Board commitment to urgent climate action, dubbed the big move at the time, because for the first time there was a singular, coordinated focus. That commitment was clear and mobilizing. It felt good, right? Then 2020 changed us all in profound ways, and I think it's safe to say that many of us saw the world and our environment through a new perspective. For some, their lived experience was finally getting the platform that it needed. The commitment to social justice was a necessary reaction, and I would argue that we probably came to it a little bit too late. It recognized years of structural racism, systemic injustice, and how architecture perpetuates those frameworks. The AIA came to that commitment in a different way than advancing human and ecological health. It felt different, and I wouldn't use the word good to describe it. So I think sometimes there's an undercurrent that because this commitment was made as a reaction rather than to be proactive, as you say in your question, it's not of the same level, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So let me break it down a little further. Climate change affects us all, but not equally. Often, who's at the table while policy is made can affect who receives resources first, especially when affected by natural disasters. Even if everyone had access and privilege to reduce their individual carbon footprint, the climate crisis would still exist. We must think bigger. We must think in terms of systems, and we must commit to work together. It's not a competition, gold, silver, platinum. It's more than that. There's a connection between climate and social justice. The communities that are most impacted by racial injustice are the same communities that are most impacted by climate change and climate injustice. So where do we go from here to achieve the balance that the question asks? We use a lens of social justice when evaluating AIA efforts towards urgent climate action, asking questions of whether the work is equitable and who's at the table. And that also includes who's at the AIA decision-making table. We use a lens of advancing human and ecological health when evaluating AIA's growing practice of social justice awareness. We maintain a communal practice that prioritizes the responsibility to access the most basic rights: clean water, clean air, healthy buildings for all. The AIA highlights and curates the frameworks that have already been developed from the NAACP to the UN New Urban Agenda and Sustainable Design Goals. There's many more that we can look at. We use our platform to create partnerships. We ramp up visibility and strategic alliances. The AIA should develop open source resources that components can customize and use at the local level that respond to their unique local issues and build upon international research. We need to resist the urge for these efforts to have one single voice. We can have a single direction, but our strength is in the diversity of the message. From Massachusetts to Missouri to Mississippi or Montana, same framework, but delivered authentically in the chapter level. We'll need commitments for the boards of 2022 and 2023 and beyond, and that means we'll need to do the work in making sure that all levels understand the topics and the needs. Lastly, we should set interim goals and metrics that speak to both the head and the heart, by which to measure what is working and what need further development. AI leadership is always big on new ideas, right? But to get back to my first statement of leading in a complex world, you also need to understand how well you are doing it. Our goal is not just awareness, but impact. So you might sense a strong tone from me, but I assure you I'm very optimistic that we can do this. And I see a connection between urgent climate action and social justice. Those two cannot be separated. The challenge is for us to continue to recognize their intersectionality and not advance one at the detriment of the other. So I thank you very much for the question.
Thank you, Emily, very much. And I should have mentioned